Hi. Welcome to our video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we're going to see how to use local storage feature in JavaScript. Why are we going to use local storage? That's what we should answer first. In visual, in internet, when we use web pages or web applications, if we are implementing HTTP, usually we are using HTTP, and HTTP is stateless, which means once we enter data and refresh the page or send it to the server, our page will be refreshed. So we need to remember some of the values. And also, let's say we are trying to log into our Gmail account. So when we try to log in, it will ask us username and password, and it will give us an option to remember the password. Okay, how it's going to be managed is that it's going to our Gmail application is going to store our username and password in our local machine. Using it, they might use cookies, or it can be done also using local storage feature. Okay, whenever we open that exact web page, it will retrieve the previously saved records and display them, so that we don't have to enter our username and password every time. So we'll try to implement that now. So let's create a new HTML page. Local storage.html. Okay, so first we need to define our form. Actually, we can make it easier. Just finish with tables. Let's give our table width. Usually I'll use percentage, but for now we don't have to go there, so let's simply use pixels. So tr will contain 2 td. So for the username we have 1 tr, for password 1 tr, and third one for our buttons. So here username, and we need to add an input text. So type is going to be text, and ID is going to be text username. Okay, so let's paste it here. Text password. So text is going to be password. Now we'll have 2 buttons. The first one is to log in, and the second one to clear our remembered settings. So in login, what we are going to do is actually remember credentials. Okay, now let's have our JavaScript code. Script our common attributes first. Now let's have a function remember credentials. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'll use a local storage object now dot set item. So I'll use set item to store a value. So I have to provide a key value pair. Key is like a variable name, so I will say username, and the value is from text username, so dot get element by id, and the id is text username. Now dot value. Okay, let's do the same for password as well, and it will be collected from txt password. Okay, now let's have another function. Okay, load storage. This will read data and load it to our text boxes. So the last function is going to remove credentials. Okay, so let's change the name of load storage to load credentials. That will make sense, more sense. Okay, so load is going to store a value for my text username text box from local storage. So local storage dot get item to read the value, and I have to provide the name or the key. So let's do this for password as well. Read from password item. In case of removal, we have two options. The first one, to remove a specific item, we can do local storage dot remove item and provide the key for it. Or we can also remove all the items dot clear. This will remove all the items in the local storage, but this one will clear local storage values that we might want. So this one is a brute force clear. So usually we don't use this. If we want to remove a specific item, we use remove item function. So it's the same for our password item as well. Okay, so now we have two buttons. When I click remember credentials function, on click, what we are going to call is remember credentials function, so that it will store the values in our local storage. On click, here we use remove credentials. Now one thing we should do is, when are we going to call load credentials? We have two options. The first thing, to add a new button here, and when we click that, we'll load credentials. Or else what we can do is we can call this function when the page is being loaded for the first time. Every time we refresh the page, we don't have to define a function and call that function using buttons or any event. Rather, after defining the function, we automatically call that function, or we automatically use that function. So let's see what's going to happen. Let's open our file. Okay, we have a terrible design. I think it's probably because of the hard-coded height property. Let's refresh that. Yeah, it's still terrible. Now let's try to fix the width property as well. That's why our button is shrinked. Okay, it's better. Now let's have a username and password, simple password. Let's make it simple password. And now remember credentials. So Now the password is being saved. The password is already saved. Now we can close our page and reopen again. So okay, now we should have found our values. Okay, so there is a problem. Can't set property value of null. Where we can click on this. So our code is trying to get txt username, but it's returning null. Oh, okay. So that's because our JavaScript is at the top in the head section. Our JavaScript is being called before our body is initialized. So what we can do is we have to write this code not in the head section, rather in the body section after our table is being defined. So let's add another script. We have to provide attributes. It's more of a standard too. Now we can call this function. Now how it works is at the head section first our JavaScript is being interpreted, which means JavaScript interpreter is going to know we have 3 functions, and then body is interpreted, which means we have 2 text boxes. Now after our table is being rendered or interpreted, we'll have another script tag. In here we only try to read a value. It's not about reading the value. The problem is when we try to store it. So it doesn't understand text username. But now, since we are defining our script tag after the table is being interpreted or rendered, it should understand the already available text boxes. Now let's try our page. Let's close this one. Now when we refresh our page, it will pop up the entire data. Okay, since we are using text box for a password, we can change the type to a password, and so it's like this. Now we can clear items. Clear button, what it does is when we call our function to clear, then we remove both items, which means when I refresh this page, username and password is going to be empty. Okay, so this is how we use local storage in JavaScript. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's clear. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please write it on a comment section below. Thank you very much for watching.